Now to Al-Quds University, and we'll be talking with Professor of International Law. That's you, Dr. Munir Nuseibah, and we're going to be talking about global justice in focus. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program. Are you there, Dr. Munir? Can you hear me? Okay, we seem to be having a connectivity issue. There you go. Assalamu alaikum, welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, we're going to talk about recognizing apartheid victims, and this is under the UN Draft Crimes Against Humanity Treaty. Let's see how that is going to be put together, because as you and I speak today, we know that South Africa has taken Netanyahu and apartheid Israel to the ICC and the ICJ for war crimes against humanity and a whole host of other crimes against them. And to date, nothing, absolutely nothing has happened. It seems as if the wheel of justice really moves very, very slowly. That could be the one part of the issue. The other part is that apartheid Israel seems to have the full support of Western governments, and that is why nothing seems to have happened thus far. So let's talk about this current draft crimes or the current draft that you are busy looking at. Is it going to address issues like what I have just raised now?
Well, certainly, there are a lot of comments that I would like to make, actually. First, I want to say that we cannot say that nothing has happened since South Africa has been proactive in the international community for the defense of human rights in Palestine and elsewhere. Indeed, South Africa has managed to get provisional measures from the International Court of Justice, which obviously Israel has not committed to and has not obeyed as a result of the Western support to apartheid Israel. At the same time, the International Criminal Court has already issued arrest warrants against Netanyahu and against Yoav Gallant, the former Israeli defense minister. And this is very significant. It means that these two individuals will be arrested if they go to countries that are party to the Rome Statute. But also, maybe it's very important here to note that South Africa has been working with other nations in the world for sanctioning Israel until Israel complies by international law. South Africa was a founding country of a group known as the Hague Group, which also involves Colombia, it involves Senegal, Malaysia, and a number of other countries who have already committed to certain important commitments that will make sure that they will not be complicit with the Israeli crimes, and they have created a movement. Maybe it's important here to remember that when Donald Trump pressured Netanyahu for the ceasefire, of course, Donald Trump is complicit with the Israeli genocide and apartheid and all of that. But when he pressured Netanyahu to accept the ceasefire, he told him, you cannot fight the whole world. So Trump understands that the reality is very different for Israel today. At the time that Israel is ignoring international law, the world has started to sanction Israel and to act differently towards Israel, which is a very significant change. Now I'll go to the other question, to your question, which is the draft treaty. The draft treaty is something that we don't think about it for immediate protection for the people in Palestine. It's a treaty that is still being drafted at the United Nations. At some point, there will be an adoption of the text of the treaty. After that, there will be the request from states to sign the treaty, to ratify the treaty, and this will take a long time. So the fact that that the world is currently negotiating a treaty is very significant because is significant, but not for immediate protection. Immediate protection needs to be based on the ongoing law that is currently applicable, ongoing international law. But the treaty, there is a campaign now to make sure that the treaty, because you have to look at the future and not only the present, you need to make sure that the treaty will define apartheid in a way that is inclusive. There have been arguments that are not very credible, but they are still there. That would go, who would say that apartheid is a system of domination of one racial group over another racial group. This, of course, stemmed from the South African experience and the Namibian experience. The old understanding of the term racial is very genetic. It's an understanding where people understand racial as a genetic analysis where there is a specific race that is dominating another. The more modern understanding of the term racial, on the other hand, is further away from genetic and closer to some sort of a social construct. Indeed, when the International Court of Justice looked into the issue of apartheid in Palestine in its advisory opinion last year, it did find that Israel is breaching the commitment not to perpetrate apartheid and racial segregation. Similarly, a lot of human rights organizations, as well as special rapporteurs, have found that Israel has breached its obligation not to commit apartheid, and that Israel was indeed in charge of the of the crime of apartheid. However, it is very important to add language to the future treaty that would decrease the debate and and allow more victims to be included and protected by the upcoming Crimes Against Humanity Convention.
Okay,
So,
so
yes.
can we talk? And I'm glad to hear that this is a treaty that is planned for future use, because currently the whole world eyes are on apartheid Israel and the genocide in Palestine. Um, and it's really sad to see, and I did make this comment earlier on, that it seems that the wheels of justice turns very slowly, and one can understand because there's a lot of investigations to go into by the ICC and the ICJ before they can make findings, whether they can declare state, they can make statements calling it crimes against humanity or whatever. So I do take that into account as well. But having said all of that, we're seeing this current situation playing out in front of us. And going forward, look, currently there's historical issues like slavery, colonialism, apartheid, mass crimes in several countries. We know what's happening in different countries in North of Africa and in countries in the Middle East as well, where people don't have a say, where certain Middle Eastern countries are police states. So is this future treaty, this UN draft treaty, going to be talking at those issues as well? Point number one. Point number two, are they looking at post the genocide in Palestine, the rebuilding of Palestine, and how that is going to look? And will the Palestinian people have a right to return? Those are deep and very important issues as well.
Yes, very important issues. First, on the first part of your question, indeed, I agree with you that it is this is an issue in negotiation. And let me explain something. The world is divided. We have the countries that have been exercising colonization, the colonizing countries, and there are the countries that have experienced colonization and are still struggling to deal with the consequences of colonization. These two groups, of course, there are many other groups that, the world can be divided into many different categories, but these are very important groups in the topic that we are discussing. The countries that have colonized the world and that have created a colony in South Africa, or creating a colonizing regime which created apartheid and many other inhumane acts. Also the same system has created Zionist Israel in Palestine, which is also exercising a lot of inhumane acts in order to continue with the colonization of Palestine. It's an ongoing project. These countries will support colonialism, they will support their former colonies and the regimes that are based on colonization, and they will never want to pay for the colonization that they have done and the enslavement that they have done in the past. The countries that have been victims of colonization and victims of slavery and victims of all of these measures, they are seeking justice. And that's why when they negotiate treaties, it's going to be a very controversial issue, because there are different interests at stake. Maybe the world has agreed already that from a certain point in history forward, there will be no more colonization, no more, that colonization will be prohibited, even though it's not enforced. I mean, we see colonization in Palestine every day, but no more apartheid, that it's prohibited. But of course, we still see it in Palestine and potentially in other places as well in the world. But looking at the past, how can we repair the damages that this colonization has done in the past is something that colonial countries try their best not to address. They always sustain that colonization was not illegal. That's their point of view. I disagree with it, but they would sustain that it was not illegal in the past. Maybe it became illegal at a certain point, but they do reject that it was always illegal. So this is the discussion. It's happening in the United Nations, and I think that global South countries and countries that have been victims, whether in Africa, and the African continent, has been devastated by colonization, but also in other parts of the world where colonization was always ongoing. I mean, even if you think about indigenous populations in Turtle Island, for example, which is also known now as Canada, United States, and other countries, it has devastated the local population in that area. But of course, these countries would never want to recognize their responsibility towards these populations. But also, if you look at Asia, you will find that the populations in Asia have also suffered a lot from the ongoing colonization. So this is regarding the first question. Regarding the second question, and thank you for asking it, the rebuilding of Palestine, rebuilding of Gaza. I mean, currently, according to law, apartheid is illegal. Genocide is absolutely illegal. Colonization is illegal. There have been a number of expressions for all of these things. The International Court of Justice last year said that Israel has to end its occupation in the occupied Palestinian territory immediately, and also recognize that Israel is breaching its obligation not to conduct apartheid and racial segregation. Based on that, it's very important here to say that the process, there are two important processes taking place in the International Court of Justice. The first one, South Africa versus Israel. At the end of the day, the result, it will take a number of years. However, the result of the South Africa versus Israel case will be that, most probably, of course, will be that the court will find that Israel has committed genocide in Palestine. And the court will order guarantees stopping the act if it was still continuing. I hope that it will not continue until the case is decided. Providing guarantees of non-repetition for the victims. And thirdly, it will order reparations for the victims. So that's why the case of South Africa is very important. I know that there has been pressure on South Africa to drop the case. I believe that now the pressure will increase with whatever they are calling as a ceasefire. But even if the ceasefire continues and stays, this pressure will increase. But this case is very important, not only to stop the genocide, which was the initial objective of the case, but also to demand justice for the victims and reparations for the victims,
Okay.
which most probably the court will decide. Can I talk about the second case, important
We've
case?
got to rush it up there. I've got to end of the interview. We have our next guest standing by. So if you could just go through it very quickly, please.
Very quickly. Nicaragua versus Germany. Nicaragua has claimed that Germany is supporting Israel while Israel is perpetrating war crimes against humanity and genocide. It will also take a few years, but this case will determine the responsibility of third countries when they are supporting a country that is committing crimes. I think it's also very important for the victims of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity in Palestine, but also elsewhere.
Thank you indeed. You are talking about global justice. You're talking about the future UN draft treaty, which talks to recognizing apartheid victims and so much more. Unfortunately, we don't have more time to cover it, but thank you indeed. Go well and assalamu alaikum to you.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
10 minutes after 10 o'clock, we're way over time, but we still have one more interview to get through, so please do stay with us.